call the September 11th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. Can we have the roll call, please?
Vice Chair Fikes,
Here.
Commissioner Halstead,
Here.
Commissioner Askin,
Here.
Commissioner Greenberg.
Here.
As Vice Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as written. Second.
Thank you. And do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Do you want to ask for any objections on approving the agenda?
Oh, does anybody object? Any objections?
Okay.
Seeing that there are no objections, the agenda is approved. Number 4, consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any objections? Seeing no objections, the consent agenda is approved. C, scheduled public comment. Anybody scheduled for public comment that would like to speak?
Nobody's scheduled.
Nobody scheduled?
We moved to unscheduled.
D, unscheduled public comment. Anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Alrighty, we will move on to E. Consideration of plats. We have 1, resolution number PZ 201936, an original preliminary plat of Bridge Road subdivision, 2019 replat submitted by McLean Consulting Incorporated. P.O. Box 468, Soldotna, Alaska 99669, on behalf of Peninsula Mini Storage LLC, 47 Spurview Drive, Kenai, Alaska 99611. And can I have a motion? Staff report?
Let's get a motion on the floor and then we can open up for staff.
Okay. Can I get a motion for PZ?
I move that we approve Resolution PZ 2019-36, the original plat at Bridge Road subdivision.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Now can I have a staff report?
Yes, you may. Thank you, Vice Chair Fikes. So page 16 of the packet has an aerial image, and then page 12 has the plat and is marked as Exhibit A. Those might be good to reference while you go over the staff report in summary. So we received a plat that would combine 4 lots into one. So it would be Lot 5, Lot 6, Lot 7A, and I'm missing one. So it'd be Lot 7A in Bridge Road subdivision, Lockwood Edition, and then lots 4, 5, 6 in the Bridge Road subdivision number 2. So those would become tract A1, and then there would be lot 4A. So the newly proposed tract A1, it would be owned by, or it is owned by Peninsula Mini Storage, and so they plan to move forward with the development there. The biggest things to note about the plat, so I'm looking at my analysis on page 9. I just wanted to highlight 3 things. So first, the City of Kenai water and sewer lines are within the right-of-way of Bridge Access Road. So normally, you're required to connect to city water and sewer. However, in 2009, under Ordinance 2009-2017, actually now that I'm reading this, in 2017, there was an ordinance enacted that granted the property owner an exemption to this. And so it specifically states that this is to move with the property. And so the city would need to follow through to get a new agreement in place following the finalization of the plat. And the city public works director, we discussed this, and he approves of this plan for water and sewer connection for the proposed new parcel. No installation agreement is required. The second thing I wanted to touch upon is there is proposed for vacation a utility easement. So that ran, it used to run along it goes right, it would be running right through the middle of the new proposed lot. It used to run along the backside of lots 5, 6, and 4. And so that is proposed to be vacated. And then a 10-foot utility easement centered on the new lot line of lot A4 is proposed to be added to the plat. These changes meet city code and would allow for orderly development of the proposed new parcel. City staff does not object, and since this is a vacation, this would have to be approved by city council. And so if the Planning and Zoning Commission approves of this plat, then it would move forth with a recommendation to city council to approve this utility vacation. Then the third thing I wanted to touch upon on the plat is just the access would be the same. Access is from Bridge Access Road and also Beaver Loop Road. Both of those roads are maintained by the state of Alaska, and the property owner does have a permit for a driveway off of Bridge Access Road. So the city we don't approve of those permits, but we checked with the property owner that they do have permission to put in a driveway on Bridge Access Road, since we know that they need that to have a driveway coming off of this state-maintained road. Based upon the submitted materials, the preliminary plat meets city code requirements, and I recommend approving the plat with the following conditions. There are 2. One, that further development conform to all federal, state of Alaska, and local regulations. And second condition, that the new City of Kenai Water and Sewer Waiver Agreement be signed for the new parcel with the new owner. End of staff report.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for public testimony. Anybody wanting to speak to PZ 2019-36? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment, and we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. Any discussion? Questions?
There was nothing in that utility easement. The one that's been vacated, there's no objections.
No, I think it was just there, as far as I know, there's nothing in the yeah.
No objection from HEA or NSTAR?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I should wait till you respond.
All good. Seeing no more discussion, should we call for the vote?
Commissioner Halsted,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fikes,
Yes.
Commissioner Askin,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, agenda item F, public hearings. We have none. Moving on to agenda item G, unfinished business. We have none. Moving on to agenda item H, new business. Under new business, we have 1, resolution PZ 2019-38 is an application for a transfer of a conditional use permit. PZ 15-28 for professional office in a rural residential zone from Clifford and Christine Smith to VIP Monitoring Services, LLC, located at 2785 Beaver Loop Road, and described as a portion of the Northwest Quarter, Section 11, Township 5 North, Range 11 West, Seward Meridian. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve Resolution PZ 2019-38, application for transfer of conditional use permit, with staff approval.
A second.
All right, can we get a staff report?
Yes, you may, Vice Chair Fikes. So now I'm looking at my staff report that starts on page 17. I'm just going to recap some of the analysis that's on page 18 of the packet. So this is an application for a transfer of a conditional use permit. City code states a conditional use permit may be transferred from one owner to another if it's for the same use and if there's no change in the use. So that is the case with this one. This would be, my notes. This would be for a professional office. That would be the same use. And basically in my staff report, I just recapped the 4 conditions that are on the existing permit under Resolution PZ 1528. And I recommended approval with carrying over those 4 conditions. And the 4 conditions are that further development conform to federal, state of Alaska, and local regulations, that the property owner obtains a sign permit prior to placing a sign on the premises, C, that there are 5 parking spaces and one of them is an ADA parking space, and D, that the property owner submits an annual report as is required for all conditional use permits. And I'll just touch upon those. We have no record of complaints for this property or the past or the existing permit, I should say, and that the property owner did obtain a sign permit before placing a sign on the premises and did provide the 5 parking spaces, and we double checked with the property owner that those are still on the premises. So I recommend approval with those conditions, and I'll just note that the applicant is in the audience, and we can invite them up to provide any additional information. End of staff report.
Thank you. At this time, I'll go ahead and open it up for testimony from the public. Is there anyone that would like to speak to Resolution PZ 201938? Step up to the microphone and let us know your name and where you're located.
Is this the microphone? I guess it is. Hi, my name is Clifford Smith. I'm the owner of the property in question, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. I am joined by Stacy Smith, the new owner of the property, and we're here to answer any questions that you might have. I would ask that you approve the transfer from my ownership to Stacy and her husband Matthew Smith. They're going to be operating the property exactly how we are operating it right now. And if you've been down Beaver Loop lately, it's a mess, but it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be nice. In fact, one of the trailers across the street from me, they pulled it out. They're getting rid of it. So that area is getting better. If you remember when I bought that place, it was dilapidated. It was in foreclosure. And I recently put a new septic system in. It's looking good. It's coming back. I think everyone is pleased with the progress that we've made over there.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I just have one. Have you had your annual review for your conditional use permit?
Yes, we've done it. Well, I don't know about this year. Willie, when did I do the last one?
You did one last year in November.
She's on top of it.
And was there any issues with the review or just
I believe so.
no issues? All righty. That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion? No discussion. I'm going to call for the vote.
Vice Chair Fikes,
Yes.
Commissioner Askin,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Halsted.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And as you might already know, with a, no waiting period, there's not a waiting period, okay. Thank you. I will move on to agenda item I, pending items, we have none. I'm gonna move on to agenda item J, reports. Councilman Malloy?
Thank you, Chair Fikes. The City Council had a work session on Tuesday, September 3rd. That was on ordinance number 3072-2019, which you had seen previously. That was the ordinance that would repeal and replace, code on city-owned lands outside the airport reserve and replace it with a new code. The work session was really beneficial. We had a good discussion with the administration. The council members got to ask a lot of questions, and we had a discussion about potential amendments to the ordinance. And so I have to really commend the city clerk and the city attorney and city manager, because they stood on their heads, particularly the city attorney. Because that was the day before our meeting, and the way we had it set up, it was supposed to come back to us at the meeting after we had our work session, which happened to be the next day. So they put together this humongous laydown that was like, I don't know, 90 pages or something, because there was a lot of amendments. They took a lot of the council's ideas and they put them into a substitute. Ones that they agreed with and ones that they didn't agree with didn't get in the substitute. But that was a great effort, a really good work product, and so then the substitute, of course, had to be published again, and a couple of the council members, including the mayor, is not going to be at our next meeting, so we postponed action on that ordinance to our first meeting in October when we'd have a full house. And then we also had another ordinance in front of us that's going to be on your agenda. This is the one that was a discussion item for you at your last meeting with the huge packet of legal information, like 400 pages or whatever. And this is ordinance number 3083-2019, amending the Kenai Municipal Code, adult businesses to increase buffer distances between adult businesses from 500 feet to 1,000 feet and define sensitive uses. There was a substitute ordinance so it was amended at that meeting by substitute ordinance number 3083-2019, and the effect of the amendment would be to add adult businesses to the land use table and show where they would be, what zones, because although the zones where they're allowed is discussed in the ordinance itself, they're not on the land use table. And so that substitute was by council members Petty and Nackstead. There was a public testimony because it was our public hearing. An individual opposed the ordinance. Generally was concerned about the definition of sensitive uses, but didn't want to see restriction on business basically in Kenai. Another individual that spoke supported the ordinance, generally on grounds of opposing adult businesses altogether. So this is going to be on your agenda for your next meeting, where you'll have a public hearing on the substitute ordinance. We'll make recommendations, whatever recommendations you decide to make to council after your public hearing. Then we had a discussion of your the planning and zoning resolution, where you had recommended that council amend the municipal code on standards for commercial marijuana establishment to add hours of operation of 2 a.m. to be closed from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. And the council gave direction to administration to bring that ordinance forward. So there's going to be an ordinance that is what Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that will be introduced to council and then go through the normal process where it'll be referred to you for public hearing and comment, and then it will come back to council after that. And the discussion of that was interesting. I didn't recollect totally how the origin of it all, but the city attorney bailed me out with helping with that discussion. Then also the council set a Board of Adjustment hearing for October 7th at 6 p.m. This is on the appeal by the Kenai Christian Church and Mr. Hall of the conditional use permit to Red Run for the retail store in that property that was in front of you. There are potentially 2 conflicts of interest for the board, Mr. Peterkin and myself, which we have to discuss at the time of the meeting and get a ruling from the mayor at that time. Should the mayor determine that we're not to participate, they would still have a quorum of 5, or they need at least 4 for a quorum, but they would have 5 anyway. Another thing that happened was, a resident came and spoke to council during unscheduled public comments, raising concerns about all the beetle kill, and spruce trees all over town and everything, and in the area generally, and was concerned in particular about what, if anything, the city might be doing about it, especially helping what can be done to help residents, particularly those who don't have the resources to pay to have trees removed themselves. And the discussion about that was the city manager, as part of his regular meetings that they have, city managers have, with the Mayor Pierce of the borough and his staff and Stephanie Queen, city manager, city of Salta, and this has been a topic of discussion for them, and they're discussing things like reopening the property on Redoubt that was the location for Firewise for people to bring brush and items like that, and they're also they said that the state forestry does have some funds, and they're looking towards putting together some grants to deal with it, just like the borough municipalities did in the past when we had the beetle kill program, a few years ago when the first wave came through. So the resident was, pleased to hear that was happening. One other thing, I just wanted to make a personal comment about our library, which this is if for those that are in private business, last week my office had to be shut down because HEA was going to do a power upgrade, so my whole building was shut down for 8 hours, and so I was able to, still work because the library has power, over at the group study rooms that they have, and you can, close the door and it's, so you can make confidential phone calls from in there or whatever. So for people who are in private business, if you're out of power, that's a good place to go. And I just thought I would commend the city library and, pass that on. Thank you. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Thank you, Councilman Malloy. And let's see, item agenda J, reports. JB, borough planning. That would be myself. We met on Monday for the borough. We had a full quorum, and we had notes. Where are they? We reviewed 4 plats and we passed them all, and we had a setback building vacation before us, and we approved that. And then we spent the rest of the remainder of the night reviewing the material gravel site work group committee's recommendation to the borough for change to the code. And what we had before us was what was presented in the work group meeting from various town hall meetings and community involvement from community residents. Planning for Anchor Point, I believe, had a committee that was put together, and I believe there might have been one in the Seward area and the Cooper Landing area that did some advisory as well. And so over the course of the last year or so, all that information was compiled and presented to us in a resolution last meeting. And so then this one, when we met on Monday, was the chance that we had to review it and digest it, and we went through it line by line and made adjustments to either accept it, take no action, or there was also a proposal from Commissioner Brantley, who's an operator in the material gravel site industry, and he offered up some alternative solutions. As did another member from the community of Anchor Point Advisory Committee. He offered up a completely, entirely different resolution, but nobody in attendance was willing to sponsor it, so I don't believe it's going to move forward. We adjourned the evening at 10:30 after reviewing all 21 items and came to a collective consensus to move it forward to the assembly for review and acceptance, or possibly for an alternative to come out of that. So I'm excited. I think it was a lot of work that a lot of folks put together, and I think we came to some compromises along the way for a lot of the sentiment we heard in the audience as far as the noise. We asked for the new backup alarms. We asked for egress and exits of the site locations to have some input on that. We had discussed whether we wanted to have a DOT traffic study, and we compromised to say if we could have some more input on how those trucks are coming and going. An example was given for a site that was considered up in the Nikiski area that was on a high turning part of the road by the swimming pool. And so there was concern in a winter operation with semi trucks coming up at an angle and coming in and out of there, that might have been an issue. So having heard all the arguments in the audience and all the testimony from the folks in the industry, like I say, I feel pretty pleased that, you know, something came out of this that I think everybody can have. Can't please everybody all the time, but I think we put forth a pretty good resolution. And that's all we have. Any questions?
Yes, I do. So I just wanted to note that tonight there is actually right now there's a public meeting in Nikiski for the Alaska LNG project. So there is a draft environmental impact statement out that is open for comment. I forget the exact deadline in October, but it's until sometime in October. And at the city will be making a few comments. They'll come before city council, but I just wanted to note that meeting is going on tonight, and if you're interested, there'll probably be a news recap of what went on at the meeting. And then this week, Willie and I went on our first gravel pit inspection. So the idea is we've sent out letters to all of the operators or owners who have a conditional use permit for surface extraction in the city. So we just went to our first one, and so I'm envisioning a little like 1 or 2 page report that we'll then send to this individual, and that will eventually make up the annual report on gravel pits that the Planning and Zoning Commission is supposed to get every year. And then just as long as I'm touching on site visits, we're scheduled for another one tomorrow for a conditional use permit. And just a heads up for the next meeting, I'm expecting a conditional use permit for gunsmithing. This is the an individual who spoke at one of the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings when we amended the land use table, where it's now a conditional use in the RR1 zone where he lives, so he has followed through to submit an application. So that will be at the next meeting. And Councilmember Malloy touched upon the adult business. That will also be on the agenda to go over the substitute ordinance. So if that packet of information is still that's still relevant, and we'll be discussing it at the next meeting. And then finally, I had mentioned a while ago about updating our hazard mitigation plan, which is an annex to the Kenai Peninsula Borough Hazard Mitigation Plan. So this is starting up again. The consultant is sort of circling back to her list of communities that were on the road system. And so she will be in Kenai attending one of our Planning and Zoning Commission meetings within the next month. And so just a reminder, the hazard mitigation plan is to either prevent damage from natural hazard events or to prevent the degree of damage from a natural hazard event. And so it covers erosion, flood, weather, earthquake, fire, and volcanic hazards. So that's sort of exciting that is happening again, and I anticipate the draft plan would then be submitted to the state and the federal government for review by the end of the year. That is the end of my staff report.
Thank you, City Planner Appleby. And that brings us to agenda item K. Seeing no one in the audience at this time, we will close the public comment. Brings us to agenda item M. Next meeting attendance. Anybody planning on not being available? Alrighty then. Agenda N, Commissioner comments and questions. Commissioner Halsted?
None, thank you.
Commissioner Askin?
Nicely done, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Greenberg? Alrighty. And agenda item O, adjournment. There being no other business before this body, the meeting is adjourned.
Good job, Diane.